helps out with that.
Okay. We are now recording.
Okay. And I've said before, if anyone says anything here and then later you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, I can edit the video afterwards and take out something if you reach out to me. I don't want to feel like anybody, I don't know, is on the record with saying things here, but I also would like to share it out with others that can't make it today. So, good morning. No, it's afternoon now. Good afternoon, everyone. And this is the second Small and Rural Library Zoom meeting that we're having. And we picked such a great day to have it in the middle of this nor'easter. It feels like the whole state is kind of shutting down and the rest of it is just kind of waiting to see when they can shut down. So I am John Knepp. I'm the MLA, the Maine Library Association Small and Rural Libraries interest group chair, I guess is the official title. And I usually like to start this off. Does anybody have any anything that they want to start out, ask about, share anything real quick off the bat? Yep, Mary.
I just have my big problem in question right now is how are people getting books? We always use Baker and Taylor. They're gone, into the, as we all know, into the wind. And I don't know how to get books. I've made deals with some local bookstores, and that's what I'm doing. But it's not really very efficient. And I'm about to retire, so I don't want to leave my successor with this issue if I can solve it before I go. So can anybody say how they're getting books?
Yep.
Or is that not a good topic for this?
No. That might not be a 5-minute, but we could do a real quick go around. I'm using Ingram, which is having its own issues right now with the rest of everything shutting down with Baker and Taylor. And we've had to order some things through Amazon because we all get the MHEC Amazon discount. You can get most books 40 to 45% off on Amazon. And
wait, what discount is that? I don't know about this discount.
The Massachusetts Higher Ed Consortium. I can write that down to make a note and email that afterwards.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of really great discounts on there. One of them is we get Amazon Business Prime for free, which is fast shipping, no minimums, but also we Amazon just started, I think because they knew Baker and Taylor was slowly circling the drain, doing library discounts on books as well. And I do have to put in a disclaimer that I kind of hate Amazon and they're destroying the earth. But
yes.
Sometimes you really need the new Diary of a Wimpy Kid book,
well, that's
a month after it's out.
Those are the books that I can find. I can find better literature, if you will, but I can't. But my patrons here in Cape Porpoise, they want to read, Danielle Steele, and they want James Patterson, and they don't care if he writes 4 books a month. They don't care. They want it. They want to read them. And they don't have those at our little local bookstores because I don't know why, but they don't. So I have to go to Amazon. But will you send me a note like how I would do this? A little bit of
I can send that out to everyone that's on afterwards. I'll make a note. Other people have used Brodart and had good experiences with them as well. Does anyone else have something related to book purchasing that they'd like to share, good or bad?
I just want to say that I've just got hooked up with the Amazon hub. I would agree with your comments. It's not my primary choice, but I was behind, way behind. Especially rural. There's not even a bookstore, and it took a while. But it actually 5 years of Business Prime. Finally, mine just got activated November 25th, and I was looking to order a few books, and when they activated it, they dropped $7 a book. When I went to the library price. Shipping has turned out okay because I made a comment to them. I went to their webinar and said, hey, Baker and Taylor knew how to ship. Books didn't get damaged. Make sure that when you're putting books in boxes, you're not putting a lot of books in big space because they're just going to whack around. So far, so good. So I just say that I'm going to try to negotiate with Brodart also because I, prefer to
And
just.
how do you spell that, Brodart?
Brodart. And once you are signed, once they know, you just have to become a member of the MHEC contract, which we are as a state, but they have to know you and they'll reach out to you. So it was a long process with Amazon. And now I'm just trying to get invoicing instead of credit card purchasing. But thank you for asking that question. I hope that helps.
I'm desperate. And I mean, you're like a powerless library director. You can't get books. You need books. And you guys are probably like me in that.
And what I'm doing is Kaylee's making.
It's all you.
Janet is making bows, and we've got a couple of Tristan's wreaths, and I'm just going to sell those.
This is always. Oh, good. She muted. Kathleen, can you mute people? Was that you? Okay, all right, good. I was trying to do that, and then I realized I wasn't the host. All right.
Well, thank you all. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. I also, Lori Stockman, our state librarian, was on. I believe, is she still on?
I am. I'm right here.
Okay. I just wanted to check in and see. Do you or anyone else at MSL that's on the call have any updates from MSL's side?
Yeah, I'll give 3 updates just very briefly. So, thank you all, by the way, for attending today on this snowy day. I know a lot of your libraries are closed, but I appreciate that you've attended so that you can interact with each other, and also I can provide you with the information that I have right now. We are still trying to move back into the cultural building. We thought we would have our staff moved and all of our collections moved by this time. Unfortunately, we're running into a variety of issues, everything from security issues to problems with the furniture for staff that have been delivered and are not correct, so that requires a change order. So just to let you know where we stand, we are moving our van delivery site from our temporary leased Winthrop location where it's been for 5 years over to the cultural building on December 15th. The mailroom for the library will be moving at the same time, but our staff will not be moving back into the building until probably the end of January or early February. The last move of items from 242 State Street, which was our public location, I'm not sure when that's going to happen. We have a meeting scheduled with the mover right now for Thursday. Our priority with the mover is to get everything out of the Winthrop leased location because that lease is done on December 31st and everything has to be out of there. So we're behind on that, and the joy keeps going. We will be in there eventually, and it will be great to have everybody, all the staff in one place, and I look forward to being able to invite all of you for a visit to the cultural building once we are completely moved in. The another update I have is I know there have been at least 2 instances of ancestry inaccessibility. I'll tell you, the procurement process for getting Ancestry and US Newsstream, which we started in July, has been abominable this year. We are still not done. And I have been doing everything that I can to push this along. I think we're at the point where we will have signed contracts, knock on wood, by the end of the week. So, hopefully this saga will come to an end. It should not take 6 months to renew 2 content databases. And I do plan to have a meeting with the powers that be in procurement, IT procurement, and OIT after the first of the year once this is all done. My focus right now is getting this process done. So the last update I want to give you all is regarding the proposed MRLS agreement revision. So I understand there are questions and some confusion related to this recent proposed draft agreement. Any comments that have been sent to me to date or to library development or to individual Maine Library Commission members are being shared with all Maine Library Commission members. It's important to clarify that the benchmarks of excellence are separate from the MRLS agreement. The benchmarks are a voluntary, aspirational strategic planning tool that libraries can use to work towards internal goals determined by each library's director and library trustee board. They are not requirements for the MRLS participation. Now let me provide an update on where things stand following the last Maine Library Commission meeting in November. The Commission elected to postpone a vote on the proposed revisions to the Maine Regional Library System Agreement in order to gather additional legal information and stakeholder feedback before making a final vote. Through the Commission subcommittee that has been working on the benchmarks as well as the agreement for almost 3 years, the Commission will seek input again from those libraries that may be impacted by any revisions and is obtaining guidance from the Assistant Attorney General Liaison to the Maine State Library during this time. Information about how libraries may provide feedback on this issue will be shared at the January 12, 2026 Commission meeting. Information about this meeting will be shared on the Maine State Library website. I will put that address in the chat. The 2026 Commission meeting dates and information will be posted this month. And to be super clear, libraries will not have to sign a new agreement by January 1st, 2026, given the work that the Commission is doing right now. While we await further guidance from the Assistant Attorney General Liaison, we ask for your patience and understanding. I have no additional information to provide you on this topic at this time. And that is the update that I have from MSL.
All right, thanks, Lori. Does anyone have any questions for Lori that she can answer? I know, as you said at the end of your update there, you can't really take, well, you can take questions, but you can't really answer many questions regarding the MRLS agreement. But does anyone have any questions for Lori otherwise? Okay. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about intellectual freedom in small and rural libraries. And this was something that Kathleen and Lori approached me about and thought it might be a good topic to discuss. Jane has a question.
Can you clarify what you're asking? I just don't understand what she's asking. What is she?
Oh, okay.
Public comment for people pay. I mean, there has been public comment, and as I said in the beginning of my remarks, I've been collating everything and sharing it with Maine Library Commission members, so I'm not clear as to what she's asking.
I think from my understanding that was Jane's question, but Jane, if you want to clarify either on mic or in the chat, if that was what you were asking.
Do you see me or no?
No.
No, but we hear you.
Okay, that's okay. I'll fix it. It's just that any public comment from people, I know it's a lot of library oriented, like boards probably, or staff members, but I'm thinking the public comment, I know, you know, there's other issues coming up with a different board, not library, but the opioid settlement monies. But I'm just thinking people out in the public, do they have an access to this at all? You know, like a patron?
We've been public comment throughout this, given all of the publicity that this has received.
Okay, so you'll...
I've been collating all public comment that's sent to anyone affiliated with this, myself, library development staff, any of the individual MLC members, and I have been putting that all together in a document so that all MLC members can read it.
That sounds good. So just like that, you know, like if it's a, do you put it in any sort of categories, like this is library staff, this is library board, this is patron, or you're just putting it all together right now?
I'm putting it all together in
Okay.
date order, along with all of the publicity that has occurred around this, so that the MLC can see the whole timeline of communications that have occurred.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to intellectual freedom, Kathleen and Lori approached me and asked if talking about intellectual freedom issues as they relate to small and rural libraries will be a good discussion topic. And I thought this would be a good place to get feedback from small and rural libraries about what intellectual freedom issues or successes they've seen or how they see it relating to their libraries. So I don't know, Kathleen, do you want to take the lead on this, or Lori, or?
It was really me who pushed to do this kind of discussion, and the reason is I am currently a member of the American Library Association Intellectual Freedom Committee. This is a 2-year appointment, could be another 2 years if I decide to re-up. But one of the reasons I put in to become a member of the ALA Intellectual Freedom Committee was because I do feel that there is a lack of communication around intellectual freedom issues by that committee. And the main reason that I wanted to have this meeting is because there is a revision that's going to be published next year of the Intellectual Freedom Manual. And it's a great resource, but it's not, I'm going to be honest, it's not easily digestible. And while we have multiple copies of it, and we'll have multiple copies of the new revision at MSL, I think there's got to be a better way to help communicate some of the core pieces of information in that manual out to rural and small librarians so that it's useful. So that's my main reason for wanting to have a gathering on this topic with you guys, is to find out, how do you want to receive information? What works for you? Given that I know there's limited hours, some of you are not paid staff people, you're volunteers. You know, what works as far as communication? Because they're really, on that ALA Intellectual Freedom Committee, there's really no clue as to how to go forward, aside from asking ARSL to figure it out. And that's the Association of Rural and Small Libraries. And I don't think that's an answer. I think that the ALA Intellectual Freedom Committee needs to take a lead on this. And that's why, being on the MLA Intellectual Freedom Committee, I've been talking to Kathleen, and we want to find out ways to reach you guys with information that you need. So it's sort of a two-part thing. How do you want to receive information? What's the best way for you? And what kind of information are you looking for that's related to intellectual freedom topics? So Kathleen, do you want to add on to that?
Sure. Hi, everybody. As I recently became chair of the Maine Library Association Intellectual Freedom Committee, and we've been having conversations for a while about how to get more information out to librarians across the state in various types of libraries about the support that's available to you, and also issues that might be coming up in your libraries. So just to make things easier, for you to have a pathway to get information from us, and also just thinking about what kinds of things are happening in your worlds. I don't know how many of you have paid staff. I don't know the landscape as well as Lori might. But I am really conscious of the fact that in every library, we are all stretched thin, and things come up, and we don't know necessarily where to turn. So I see Andrea's question in the chat about an overview of the topics that fall under intellectual freedom in libraries. And I'll just give like a brief overview of the kinds of things that we're thinking about. So from the MLA perspective, we support libraries in making sure that we're all following policies that make information of all kinds freely available to all of our patrons without bias regarding like viewpoint. So we're trying to make sure that our collection development policies and other kinds of policies that we have reflect the values of librarianship around making sure that all of our patrons have ways that they see themselves reflected in our collections. So that's one part of it. Making sure that people have policies that comply with First Amendment law, for instance, other ways that we, and just also informing people about the types of legal frameworks and intellectual frameworks that support our work, because we're not always trained, not everybody's trained or knows that stuff from library school. So just thinking about that. And so you also might get like book challenges, program challenges, things like that come up in your library. So offering support. Do you want to add anything, Lori? And I don't know if folks have questions about that, but Lori.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I would add is that the types of topics we're talking about range from the thing that everybody thinks about these days, which is any kind of challenge or ban to books or materials, to privacy, to use of meeting rooms, posting on bulletin boards. Intellectual freedom encompasses a lot of different pieces of what we do as library staff. So I can put in the chat the link to the ALA Intellectual Freedom, Office of Intellectual Freedom, so you could take a look at some of the broader overview topics that they encompass. But I guess I'm really interested to know, I've seen one person put in the chat, they like receiving info via MeLibs, but it's not just written info. I'm thinking, are there ways in which you try to do professional development where it's, do you prefer webinars that have a certain time or place? Do you prefer asynchronous learning where things, a 101 video is posted on a platform that you can watch at any point in time that you choose? And just what kind of topics are you interested in learning more about and would help you with your day-to-day work?
And just piggybacking on that, I and others in the state have done various trainings around intellectual freedom issues. So I did a Law for Librarians training, and that I've done a bunch of presentations around, just how the First Amendment covers the work that we do, just kind of basic information about the legal support for the work that we do in our libraries. And that kind of thing is accessible to anybody in the state. Like we can get people via Zoom or sometimes in person to do presentations, depending on where, our availability. And yeah, that question about AR or copyright, that's there's a lot there that I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable addressing in relation to intellectual freedom at this moment. But yeah, we could certainly look at that. But I think we are available to do trainings. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat and trying to talk at the same time. Not good. available to do trainings for you. And I also, I don't know how many folks are members of Maine Library Association. If you are, we do coffee chats. And if that's something that would be useful, that would be helpful to know. Maybe folks aren't able to be members of MLA, so I'm not sure what the status of people are, but I don't know if there are issues that people have that you want to address or ways that you might want to engage with these questions. Make some space for conversation.
Yeah, so I guess maybe a good way to think about it, especially for a lot of these folks, is have you had intellectual freedom issues at your library, whether it's book challenges, program challenges, or even, like you said, privacy issues come up all the time. And what resources do you wish you might have had at that time? Because a lot of times, at least in public libraries, it feels like intellectual freedom isn't something that's front of mind until it becomes a crisis, almost like until someone is actively challenging a book, or you're worried that someone has stolen information from your system and is using it or could use it in a way that's not appropriate. And I did see that there are some links to some things like that on the MLA website for intellectual freedom, but I just didn't know if people, other librarians out there, had any instances that they can recount that it would have been helpful to have access to resources, and what you think might have helped you at that time. Or I guess I can go. So last year we had a Pride display, and no one really, it wasn't any kind of formal issue or any kind of formal complaint even. It was one family who didn't say anything. They just all took out like 10 books from the Pride display every time they came in, and suddenly there were empty displays, which we just kept filling because we have enough books. But even issues like that, like I don't know where the line is. How can you tell what is an intellectual freedom issue? Because there's no formal protest, but sometimes it's good just to talk, whether it's in the public library directors listserv or just with people that you know around the state. And this is where someone or a group like the MLA Intellectual Freedom Committee would be good to talk to about ways that other people have dealt with issues like that. We just ended up putting a limit on the number of display books you could take out at a time. So it didn't really come to a formal head. It just was something where we dealt with the issue without going against our policy or having it become a big confrontational moment.
Well, and I think you make a good point that, like, in small communities, you may know the people who are challenging something, and or like having an issue. And so maybe there's a way that it's easier to just have conversations about things that are coming up with the patron and to resolve issues more like face to face. If people feel comfortable doing that. And that's also something that we could, if that seems like a useful training, or we could do, like, we've done scenario based conversational style chats where we've had like, this comes up and then how do you have a conversation about that? But if that would feel helpful to people, that's something certainly MLA could take on.
I know Jane's comment as well about comprehensive policy and procedure manuals might be something that's applicable as well to this. I know I've tried to share some of our policies, here at our library to some of the smaller libraries. A lot of times it just helps to have things written down and thought of ahead of time. And if you haven't thought of it, someone else definitely has. So that's again where I found it's helpful just to talk to other directors, or if you're not a director, other librarians in the state who are dealing with similar issues, and see how they have handled it. The more perspectives you can get on issues like this, usually the better you'll end up in the end.
I would also suggest that you reach out if you have a question you would like to know if other libraries have handled a certain situation. Reach out to your consultant at MSL or reach out to your representative on MLAC, the Maine Libraries Advisory Council. Both of those avenues, those people have a broader sense of what other libraries are doing either regionally or statewide, and you can get some good information from going those routes.
I also put a link in the chat to something that I've been working on with a bunch of other libraries in New England. We launched the New England Intellectual Freedom Helpline, and we offer one-on-one support for people who are experiencing any kind of issue related to intellectual freedom and to help you like navigate that challenge. So that is you can fill out a form and we'll get back to you and match you up with somebody who can help you think through a situation that's going on and help support you through that process and connect you with resources that you need. So some of the things that like the Drag Queen Story Hour, like we would then find policies or find tools, that are out there that would help you have those conversations with people.
John, I'd like to share a story that's kind of from a different perspective. Is sometimes challenges can be really beneficial as well. I had an experience where we did a story walk, and it was a purchase story walk, and it had lovely illustrations, which was the main reason that I installed it. But someone took offense at the content and the illustrations because it wasn't from the perspective of indigenous people, which the book was a kind of a rewrite of a Native American folk tale. I hadn't done my due diligence to look up the research, and so when we did get the challenge, I did do that. And it turns out I probably should not have installed that story walk, and I probably will not again. But if they hadn't made the challenge, I wouldn't have known that. So I just wanted to share that perspective and my experience with other challenges, especially when I was working as a school librarian, is listen to people and treat them with their opinion with respect. And sometimes they have a very good point that I have withdrawn a book because of their challenge. And they made me see a different point of view. That's not always been the case, but it's like, don't immediately get defensive, but take it seriously and treat that person respectfully. And I found that that's helped me a great deal.
Yeah, Barb, that's a lot of what I try to do. It's almost like de-escalation with a lot of these things. It's, a lot of times a person just wants to be heard out, and we've had issues, that haven't boiled up into like formal book challenges, or someone complains about something, and I'll just be like, I hear you. I understand that that's your perspective, but you're not the entire community. And then they'll be like, well, that's fair. I'm really not the entire community. I'm just a grumpy old person. And I'm like, yep, you are just a grumpy old person. So a lot of times, there are ways of dealing with this without alienating, because we have some patrons here who, they're some of our best patrons at the library. They just do not agree with us on a lot of things, very fundamental things. That doesn't mean they can't use the library. Yeah, it's a lot knowing your community, especially in these small communities, and not putting yourself in a box because of your community, but also like trying not to bring everyone along with you, I guess is, I don't know. Yeah, we've had some, not challenges, but parents upset about things, and we do a lot of de-escalation with these kind of issues, which is nice to not have people coming to your board meetings and yelling at you or yelling at your bosses about you. It's best to avoid that if you can. But like Barb said, sometimes good things can come out of them, and sometimes that's the only recourse these people are looking for. So it's good to know what you can do when things like this happen.
I'll say something. I did the grants from the Association of Rural and Small Libraries, Libraries Transforming Communities. And one of the requirements was taking a workshop, and there were people from all over the place. And it was something about having tough conversations. And they were 3 of them, and they were tough because they handed out these questions you really didn't want to answer. But the issue is, in a small and rural library, how often do we practice? We don't practice this at all. And so when it happens, you kind of go, huh. But I found that training, because it was 3 sessions and they were tough questions, and they were with other librarians that I didn't know. I had one was from Connecticut and one was from Kansas or whatever. And they asked those questions, and now I feel much more comfortable because I really got trained. It wasn't like, see, I'm really good at this, so I'm going to tell you. We struggled, and they gave us immediate feedback. They were trained on how to do it with a small and rural library perspective. So I think if you can take that class, it was essential if we were going to get those grants. And let me tell you, we did the working waterfront, which is very contentious in Harpswell and Cundy's Harbor. There's a lot of strong feelings, but because they set me up on how to do the panels, how to ask the questions, how to intercede, it went really smoothly. And that particular model is now what the Maine coast fishermen use all up and down the coast, because they were trained. I had to train them because they couldn't attend that workshop, but it's a really great model, and those people are really good at training you. So I would suggest that if you can do that, but the having to do it for 3 hours, one time is like, oh good, I got through that, but then I had to come back and do it again and again. So by the time I got done, I kind of felt like, okay, I can do this. Because you don't know how the other people are going to react either. So I would just recommend, if you get a chance to do that, it's one of the best things I ever did.
Heather, was that training online or was it in person?
It was online, and then you went to these Zoom rooms.
Breakout sessions.
Yeah. Yes. And I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. No, it wasn't. They were in your face. But it was really good.
Well, I appreciate that you brought that up. I guess I could make one more update. We still do not have federal fiscal 26 IMLS LSTA monies in the federal budget. So I'm planning that we won't have them. I would like to be pleasantly surprised. So we will see. And I'm going to take what you just said, Heather, under advisement, because if that is an interest of the small and rural libraries group, we might be able to facilitate some kind of training along that line, if it's of interest to you all.
I'd recommend it.
Yeah, I think that's something we all struggle with, is having conversations or dealing with those kind of situations head on. And a lot of times they just either linger or they get out of hand almost. I learned at something a long time ago, just to, before you go into those things or as those things are going, think of the worst case scenario, and you remember that we're still, just in a library. So worst case scenario, you're probably not going to get shot. And then once you accept that and just move on and just go through with the conversation, it's usually not as terrible. But it would be great to have some kind of a de-escalation training. Not just around intellectual freedom issues, but in general. You never know what someone's going to be yelling at you about next. Yeah, that is a pretty low bar to not be shot, but I'm saying that's like the lowest of bars. A lot of times it's not, it's a lot better than that. Does anyone else have any more questions or comments, thoughts about intellectual freedom? All right. Well, thanks, Lori and Kathleen, for coming to discuss that. And hopefully we'll be able to get you some more, get you some more feedback if anyone else has any feedback. It would be great to get that out to small and rural librarians. I know a lot of times I talk to people who don't, and I don't always necessarily know what we're supposed to, as a library, do in certain situations. And then they don't know what they're supposed to do legally. They don't know what other people are doing as well. It's easy to feel very alone when things like this come up. And like I said, it's not always front of mind until these kind of issues come up. But thanks. Does anyone else have anything they wanted to discuss? We have about 15 minutes left. Oh, Melissa has a question or comment.
Hi. Just wanted to share that the Alice Pendleton Library has become certifiedly sustainable, or
Nice.
Yeah. It was a lot of work, but we're really pleased to be done. And I'm going to be a mentor to the new cohort, I think, down east, working with Hazel to help them get through it too. So really excited.
Awesome. I've been putting off doing that for years now. So congrats.
Pumpkin, the water's fine.
I keep saying once I get everything else done, I'll work on that, but have not gotten around to it yet. Does anyone else have anything to share today? If you built a good snowman or something, anything?
John, I would like to just, this is Barbara Meyer from the Liberty Library. I would just like to share the comment that I made back a ways that I think was overlooked, but I think it's really important. As far as intellectual freedom and collection policies and all that, it would be good for everybody to have what needs to be included in their policies, because I find whenever there's some kind of question or dispute, the first thing I go to is, what does our policy say? And it would be really, I think, beneficial to all libraries to have, well, these are basic things that should be in your policies for the library, and get your library boards behind you, as so that when something does come up, you have something to refer to as, well, this is what our policy says.
I appreciate that you did put, I know you put that in the chat, Barbara, and I do think that ALA does have a lot on basic policy content, but remember, library boards are the governing body that puts policy in place, and there should always be a legal review. It is not enough to just say, oh, this other library's policy, that looks good, I'll have my board adopt it. What it really depends on, if you had a legal challenge due to a policy that you have in place, you need to have an attorney whose guidance helped you create that policy, and then you're able to defend it in court. Attorneys have as many opinions as there are snowflakes in the world. And you need to go with an attorney and have an attorney that you trust that will work with you and your board. So it's, while MSL or ALA or any of the other library organizations like Public Library Association or Association of Rural and Small Libraries can talk about best practices when it comes to what should be in certain policies, it really is a legal matter because policies are a legal document for your organization. So I just want to make sure that you all understand that it is very important to have legal review of any of your policies, because if they're challenged, that's got to be defended by a lawyer that you have worked with.
I hear what you're saying, Lori, but and we have used the Maine nonprofits to get legal advice for certain things. But I'd just be curious how many small and rural libraries have a lawyer reviewing all of their policies. I used to have a neighbor who was a lawyer, and she moved. But it's like we don't have a lawyer on that we can consult for our policies, and I'd be curious to know how many other people do, because maybe we should be.
If you're a town library, you might be able to use Maine Municipal Association. They have attorneys.
Yeah, or your municipality's attorney. And I say that because I was a director of a small library in New Hampshire, and when I came on, there was no line item for anything to do with legal fees. And we used the town attorney for some things, but then when it came down to certain policies that the town disagreed with the library board on, we were on our own. So we ended up having an annual line in our budget of about $200 just for legal review. And that was new. And this was back in, I think I put that in 2011. So I know it's very common that there are not, that small libraries do not have legal review of their policies. I appreciated Winter's comment in the chat about if you can't afford an attorney, check with a library that has a policy, and if it's been legally reviewed for them, I mean, there's a shortcut, but you got to make sure you have that legal review, because when push comes to shove, if your library is sued and you're a nonprofit, you need to be able to have an attorney who reviewed that policy to be able to back it up.
And sometimes we've run into issues where we usually do the thing where we have lawyers on we have an executive committee of our board, but our board is a pretty big board. I think it's like 20 something people here at Thompson, which is crazy. But we usually have at least one lawyer on that board. And I've come to that lawyer with issues, and the lawyer has said, oh, I don't do that kind of law. So try to find a lawyer who will help you and be helpful, because there are different kinds of attorneys. So just because your lawyer is an attorney doesn't mean that he knows municipal law or the kind of law that you'll necessarily need. All right, are there any other questions? Any other comments? Anything?
I just want to throw out there, I joined this call because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm on MLAC, which Lori mentioned earlier, and also as a Bangor is one of the ARCs for the northern region. But a lot of the issues that libraries have been had by other libraries, and particularly if you're in the northern region, please always feel free to get in touch with us my phone's going off. Sorry. I'll leave it at
Paul is a very busy guy, in addition to MLAC and to being part of the ARC. But that is a good point, that you can always reach out to your local ARC, or your MLAC rep, or just Paul in general. He can help out. So, but not as a lawyer, he says. Yeah.
And Barb, I need to address your question in the chat. Might MSL search out those lawyers who would do that and perhaps do pro bono? You have to remember that Maine State Library is a state agency. That is not something that a state agency can do. So this is why when we're talking about coming back to the elephant in the room, the MRSL draft agreement, we have to go through the attorney that represents the Maine Library Commission, which is our AAG liaison. But we cannot go around vetting attorneys and providing libraries with a list. That's not something that we are going to be allowed to do as a state agency.
Yeah, Winter did just put a link in the chat to pro bono legal assistance, which is good to know. I didn't know most of those things were available. So that's something to, yeah, if you are an MANP member, and if you aren't, you should really look into joining for things just like that. Because if you do, they also have accounting, pro bono accounting services, risk management, technical assistance. You can get a lot of stuff through your MANP membership. All right, anything else? Any other questions, comments? I'm just scrolling through to make sure we didn't miss anything in the chat. Oh. Yeah, I know there are some libraries out there who have put their policies forward as, you know, kind of vetted. So if you do reach out to other libraries, definitely check to see if an attorney has looked at their policies, and if they have, and if their library aligns with your library as far as size, and are you a municipal versus a nonprofit, or a weird mix of both, like a lot of us are. As long as it's the same, you're probably okay, but it still doesn't hurt to get a lawyer to look over those kind of things as well. Because like Lori said, at the end of the day, it comes down to, can you defend it in court? All right, I think that's it. Unless anyone wants to interrupt, we thanks everyone for coming. We got another. Winter's just putting a plug in to donate to MLA. So if you have any Giving Tuesday money to give out, MLA could use it. And they do have merch on the website. I should probably say this because this is an MLA meeting. We have merch on the website. I don't think we're running any Black Friday sales, but every day is Black Friday on the MLA website.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah,
and Kathleen will get me this recording, and I can hopefully upload it and send it out to everybody. Is the chat on the recording as well, Kathleen? Do you know?
I will figure out how to capture it if I can.
Okay. I just kind of want to go through just to make sure there weren't any unanswered questions from that. And then I'll try to put together a little summary of this stuff. So, all right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your week.
Okay. Bye. Bye.